They smile, they nod, they make you feel understood, and while you relax, they observe. Because a smile isn't always warmth. Sometimes it's camouflage. Stay with me. Because once you see the patterns behind certain smiles, you'll never interpret them the same way again. We're taught from childhood that smiling means safety. A smile signals friendliness, trust, good intentions. But power rarely reveals itself directly. It masks. Throughout history, manipulation has worn a pleasant face. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that deception is most effective when it appears harmless. The calm negotiator, the agreeable coworker, the charming stranger. In this video, you'll learn how smiles can conceal envy, strategy, and calculated intent, and how to detect the subtle shifts most people ignore. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The smile that disarms you is often the one that studies you. Let's begin with a brutal realization. Your brain is wired to trust the smile. Before you learned language, before logic, before skepticism, your survival depended on reading faces. A relaxed face meant safety. A smile meant acceptance, belonging. Rejection once meant exile. Exile once meant death. So when someone smiles at you, your nervous system softens. Your guard lowers. Cortisol drops. Oxytocin rises. You feel connection. And that is precisely why the smile is powerful. It bypasses logic. You don't consciously decide to trust smiling people. You feel safe first, then justify it later. This is the comfort trap. The weak man says, "He's smiling. He must mean well." The strategic man asks, "Why is he smiling right now?" There's a difference between emotional reaction and psychological awareness. The comfort trap works because it's invisible. Nobody warns you that friendliness can be positioning. Nobody teaches you that warmth can be tactical. And here's the dramatic irony. The more kind someone appears too quickly, the less effort you put into analyzing them, which makes you easier to analyze. Pause for a moment. Have you ever met someone who felt too agreeable? Too supportive? Too aligned with your opinions? Did it feel flattering? Exactly. Mirroring is the first doorway into your defenses, but we're just getting started. Because once comfort is established, something else begins quietly in the background. Observation. Real predators don't announce themselves. In nature, the most successful hunters blend in. The psychological predator does the same. He doesn't intimidate you. He studies you. History is filled with leaders who weaponized charm. Consider Charles-Maurice de Talleyrand-Périgord, the master diplomat of post-revolutionary France. He served monarchs, revolutionaries, and emperors, switching loyalties while maintaining a reputation of calm politeness. He smiled. He negotiated. He appeared cooperative. Yet he survived regime after regime because he never revealed his true allegiance. His warmth was strategic neutrality. While others clashed with swords, he maneuvered with composure. That is camouflage. The loud enemy is obvious. The silent strategist is not. Aggression alarms you. Politeness disarms you. You fear the man who frowns at you, but the man who smiles while gathering leverage. He rarely triggers suspicion. Psychological predators understand timing, and they don't strike when you're guarded. They strike when you're comfortable, and comfort begins with, you guessed it, a smile. But camouflage alone isn't enough. To control you, they must move closer, and that requires something smaller, subtler, micro-betrayals. Betrayal rarely begins with a knife. It begins with a joke, a comment, a tiny boundary push. You're too sensitive. I was just kidding. Relax. It's playful. light, smiling. But notice what happens. Your boundary was crossed and then dismissed. You feel slightly unsettled, but you ignore it because they're smiling. Micro-betrayals test how much you tolerate. Each time you allow one, you communicate something powerful. I can be pushed. And manipulators measure tolerance like engineers measure pressure, 1 inch at a time. This is how workplace sabotage begins. This is how toxic friendships form. This is how dominance establishes itself without confrontation. The smile remains. The tone stays gentle. But the pattern repeats. And here's the cliffhanger question. What if the smile isn't there to comfort you, but to soften the damage? Let's go deeper. Because sometimes the smile isn't about pushing boundaries. Sometimes it's about buying your loyalty. There is a form of generosity that is not generosity. It is investment. The strategic giver understands reciprocity psychology better than you do. They offer help before you ask. They solve problems quickly. They complement your potential. And you feel grateful. And gratitude creates obligation. You don't feel forced. That's the genius. You feel indebted. The smiling benefactor becomes psychologically expensive to oppose. Think about influential political figures like Otto von Bismarck, known for calculated diplomacy and strategic alliances. He often used cooperation and politeness publicly, while maneuvering ruthlessly behind the scenes to consolidate power in Prussia. Soft tone, hard objective. Kindness can create dependency. And dependency breeds leverage. You think you owe them loyalty because they were good to you, but they may have calculated that loyalty long before you did. And when you finally disagree with them, watch carefully. The smile tightens, the warmth cools, because the transaction has shifted. But the most dangerous smiling individuals go even further. They don't just create debt. They create identity attachment. There exists a personality type that never raises their voice. And they remain calm in conflict, measured in speech, soft in tone. They seem emotionally mature. But emotional composure can also be tactical detachment. Consider figures like Joseph Fouché, a master of surveillance and political survival during the French Revolution. Outwardly composed and cooperative, inwardly calculating and adaptive. He smiled through shifting alliances. He survived chaos by never appearing threatening. The social assassin does not attack your strength. He studies your weaknesses. He asks questions. He listens more than he speaks. You feel understood. But what you don't realize is that data is being collected. Your insecurities, your ambitions, your fears, stored, filed, reserved for future leverage. And because there's no visible hostility, you never prepare defenses. The loud rival you compete against, the calm rival you underestimate. And here's the chilling truth. When conflict finally appears, it will feel sudden to you. But it was planned long ago. And who falls first to these smiling tacticians? Not the aggressive man, not the dominant one. The approval seeker. This isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. Men who crave validation are the easiest to control. If you need to be liked, you will tolerate disrespect. If you fear confrontation, you will excuse manipulation. If you equate kindness with loyalty, you will ignore patterns. Smiling manipulators search for one thing: emotional dependency. They test your need for approval. They subtly withdraw warmth to see if you chase it. And if you do, control is established. The approval seeker negotiates from fear of losing connection. The strategic man negotiates from fear of losing leverage. Which one are you? This is where transformation begins. Because once you recognize the pattern, you face a choice. Remain emotionally reactive, or become observant. Remain comfort-driven, or become pattern-driven. And the most powerful shift you can make is this: judge behavior over expression. Watch consistency over charm. Measure actions over smiles. Because a smile can hide envy. It can hide calculation. It can hide ambition. And in rare cases, it can hide resentment, waiting for the perfect moment. If smiles can conceal danger, then how many smiles around you right now are genuine? And how many are positioning? How emotional hooks are planted? How doubt is engineered? And how psychological influence operates quietly over time. Because once you understand the system behind the smile, you stop being the target, and you start seeing the game. By now you understand something uncomfortable. The smile was never the attack. It was the distraction. The real weapon operates underneath. Slow, subtle, almost invisible. You don't lose control in one dramatic moment. You lose it gradually. One agreement, one doubt, one emotional hook at a time. By the time you realize you've been manipulated, you're already defending the person who did it. Stay with me, because in this video, we are dismantling the machine behind the smile. And once you see the mechanics, you'll never be influenced the same way again. Manipulation does not begin with control. It begins with access. The smiling strategist doesn't overpower you. He synchronizes with you. He mirrors your tone. He matches your energy. He validates your frustrations. You feel seen, understood, aligned. But what feels like connection is often calibration. Emotional hooking works because humans crave resonance. When someone reflects your beliefs back to you, your brain rewards them with trust. This is why fast intimacy feels powerful. This person just gets me. No, this person just studied you. Look at history. Grigory Rasputin gained influence over Russian royalty, not through force, but emotional access. He listened. He appeared spiritually insightful. He positioned himself as indispensable. He didn't dominate immediately. He bonded first. And once emotional dependency formed, influence followed. The more personal someone becomes quickly, the less you question their presence. Hook, bond, influence. That's the sequence. Once emotional access is secured, how does control begin without you noticing? It begins slowly, like poison diluted in water. No intelligent manipulator overwhelms you with obvious control. They introduce it gradually. A suggestion here, a doubt there, a subtle redirection of your decision-making. Maybe you're overthinking. I just think this would be better for you. Concern replaces command. And you cooperate because it feels supportive. But step back. Notice the pattern. Your independent thinking begins to soften. Your choices subtly adjust. Your perception slightly shifts. The slow poison strategy works because it avoids triggering your defense system. Think of political operators like Lavrenti Beria, who rarely confronted power directly at first. He accumulated it through gradual positioning, information control, and quiet influence inside Stalin's inner circle. He did not shout. He embedded himself. Control rarely enters loudly. It infiltrates. The victim often defends the influence because it never felt like pressure. But the poison deepens. Because once influence alters perception, something darker can begin. Doubt. Most people imagine manipulation as aggression. It's not. It's correction delivered softly. You're imagining things. That's not what I meant. You're too sensitive, said calmly, with a smile. Your emotional reaction becomes the problem, not their behavior. Over time, you start questioning your own perception, And this is where psychological dominance forms. Because if someone can make you doubt your interpretation of reality, they control your reality. History offers chilling examples. Kim Philby, a high-ranking intelligence officer and Soviet spy, maintained an image of loyalty and calm professionalism for decades. Even when suspicion arose, his composed demeanor deflected scrutiny. He never panicked. He reassured. He smiled. The calmer the manipulator appears, the more irrational you look for questioning them. Gaslighting with aggression raises alarms. Gaslighting with composure lowers them. And once doubt is planted inside you, you seek validation from the very person destabilizing you. Which brings us to the next mechanism. Because sometimes manipulators don't appear dominant at all. Sometimes they appear weak. There is a form of power that hides inside fragility. The strategic victim never attacks directly. They suffer publicly. They imply harm. They suggest mistreatment. They weaponize sympathy, and you hesitate to challenge them. Because confronting someone who appears vulnerable feels cruel. This tactic has shaped power structures repeatedly. Consider Catherine de' Medici. Often underestimated and portrayed as politically passive, early in her reign, she used diplomacy, marriage alliances, and carefully constructed appearances of moderation to consolidate influence in a deeply divided France. She appeared conciliatory, but she maneuvered ruthlessly when necessary. Perceived weakness can be the ultimate disguise. You lower your guard around someone who seems less threatening, which gives them room to maneuver. Strategic victimhood flips dominance dynamics. Instead of attacking you, they make you defend yourself. And if you resist, you look insensitive. You look harsh. They remain smiling. You look aggressive. That reversal is power. But the most advanced manipulators take it one step further. They ensure that even if exposed, nothing sticks. The master manipulator never leaves fingerprints. They operate in ambiguity, half statements, subtle suggestions, indirect influence. If confronted, they deny with confidence. I never said that. You misunderstood. That wasn't my intention. And because their delivery is calm, people believe them. Plausible deniability is social armor. Consider figures like Richard Nixon, whose public composure often contrasted with covert political strategies that later unraveled during Watergate. The visible persona and hidden operation were separate layers. The lesson isn't political, it's psychological. Power protects itself with ambiguity. If accusations cannot be proven clearly, credibility remains intact. The victim appears paranoid. The manipulator appears reasonable, which is exactly the goal. But the battlefield where this becomes most dangerous is everyday life, workplaces, friend groups, relationships, because the smiling rival doesn't need absolute control, just strategic advantage. Imagine a coworker who praises you publicly, but subtly questions your reliability to superiors. Imagine a friend who supports your ambitions, but introduces doubt when you're close to success. Imagine a partner who smiles lovingly, while isolating you from independent thinking. None of this looks like attack. It looks like concern. But piece by piece, your reputation shifts, your confidence shifts, your environment shifts, and you can't point to a single explosive event, only patterns. The smiling rival rarely competes head-on. He repositions the narrative around you. What if the most dangerous opponent in your life right now isn't the one who challenges you directly, but the one who agrees with you most often? Let that sit. You won't just recognize the mechanics. You'll learn how to become immune, how to observe without reacting, how to project warmth without surrendering power. how to turn psychological awareness into silent dominance. Because once you understand the machinery behind the smile, you stop fearing it, and you start mastering it. Now you see it. The smile, the hook, the slow poison, the doubt, the deniability. But awareness alone does not make you powerful. It makes you cautious. And there's a difference. The weak man becomes paranoid. The powerful man becomes unreadable. This video is not about fearing manipulation. It's about transcending it. Because once you understand the game behind the smile, you have two choices. Remain a careful observer, or become the one nobody can read. What the moment you stop reacting emotionally is the moment manipulators lose interest in trying. Let's build that version of you. The first transformation is internal, not aggressive, not loud, not confrontational. Detached. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is clarity without urgency. Most men lose power because they react. They rush to defend themselves. They rush to correct narratives. They rush to explain. But the strategic mind delays reaction. Why? Because reaction reveals investment, and investment reveals leverage. Look at leaders like Charles de Gaulle. Known for his composure under pressure, he projected calm authority, even during national crises. His restraint amplified his influence. He didn't react impulsively. He observed. The ruthless awareness mindset means you stop evaluating people by tone and start evaluating them by patterns. Not what they say, but when they say it. Not how they smile, but what follows the smile. Once you stop reacting emotionally, you start seeing something even more powerful. Inconsistencies. Most people watch faces. Strategic men watch timing. Does the smile appear when accountability approaches? Does warmth increase when you gain success? Does agreement surface when you're vulnerable? Inconsistency is the fingerprint of hidden intent. The smile that appears too precisely is rarely spontaneous. Consider master negotiators like Henry Kissinger, known for measured expressions and calculated diplomacy during Cold War tensions. Public demeanor often concealed strategic objectives. Expression is theater. Intent is strategy. You must train yourself to notice mismatches, warm tone and dismissive action, supportive words and subtle sabotage, calm face and strategic rumor. The more controlled someone appears, the more controlled their intentions usually are. This is where psychological maturity separates you from average men. You don't accuse, you don't confront impulsively, you adjust access. Distance is power, and that leads to the next transformation. Because once you read patterns, you must change how accessible you are. There is strength in warmth, but there is authority in restraint. Controlled coldness does not mean hostility. It means selective engagement. You respond, but you don't over-explain. You smile, but you don't over-invest. You listen, but you don't reveal everything. Information is currency. Most men overspend. When you reduce emotional availability, two things happen. Manipulators lose data. Observers gain respect. Think of figures like Queen Elizabeth I. Her public composure and emotional restraint made her difficult to predict politically and romantically. She revealed little, controlled access, and maintained leverage. Mystery sustains power. Overexposure invites control. The more you chase approval, the less powerful you appear. The less you chase, the more people adjust to you. Controlled coldness forces others to work for access, and when someone must work for access, they value it more. But coldness alone isn't enough. You must also establish something most men fear to enforce. Boundaries. Boundaries delivered with anger look insecure. Boundaries delivered calmly look absolute. The strategic man does not argue long. He states once and observes the response. No, that doesn't work for me. I'm not interested. No justification marathon, no emotional explosion, just clarity. The manipulator thrives on emotional chaos. When you refuse without drama, you remove their playground. They expect resistance. They don't expect composure. And composure destabilizes them. Historical commanders like Sun Tzu emphasized strategic positioning over emotional warfare. The greatest victories were achieved before battle began. See, boundaries are pre-battle positioning. You don't wait for escalation, you prevent it. And when someone tests your boundary, you don't escalate. You reduce access, because attention is reward. Silence is correction. But here's the deeper layer. Once you master awareness, detachment, and boundaries, you can do something even more advanced. You can control perception. Remember how this began. The smile was camouflage. Now you understand it, which means you can use it strategically, without becoming manipulative. The strategic smile is not deception. It is emotional neutrality, masked as warmth. You remain composed. You remain observant. You reveal nothing unnecessary. Your smile no longer signals vulnerability. It signals control. The difference? Intent. The naive smile seeks approval. The strategic smile maintains dominance. Look at statesmen like Lee Kuan Yew, who combined public composure with firm, calculated governance. Warm in presentation, unyielding in objective. Perception shapes influence. When you project calm stability, people hesitate to challenge you impulsively, because they cannot read your next move, and unpredictability creates respect. But here's the ultimate shift. The final evolution is not about smiling strategically. It's about becoming psychologically untouchable. There is a point where something changes inside you. You stop fearing hidden agendas. You stop scanning rooms nervously. You stop craving reassurance, because you understand the patterns. And once you understand them, you no longer react emotionally to them. You assess. You decide. You adjust. The smiling manipulator looks for emotional entry points. When none exist, they move on. The strongest defense is not aggression. It is indifference. Not careless indifference. Controlled indifference. When you no longer depend on validation, you cannot be controlled through it. When you no longer fear isolation, you cannot be pressured through it. When you no longer rush to prove yourself, you cannot be baited through ego. You become difficult to influence, and difficulty commands respect. Here's the final question, and it's the one that decides everything. Are you still reacting to smiles, or are you evaluating them? Because once you master awareness, control your reactions, enforce boundaries, and manage perception, you stop being prey in subtle power games. You become the variable others calculate around. And the most powerful position in any social environment is this. Not the loudest, not the most aggressive, not the most charming, but the most unreadable. The man whose smile reveals nothing. The man whose calm cannot be shaken. The man who understands the game, and therefore cannot be quietly defeated. The next time someone smiles at you, you won't flinch. You won't assume. You'll observe. And in that silent pause, power shifts. Because now, you see it.